Hi, everybody. Welcome back to reading class week 4. You've probably heard by now that we're in it for the long haul, so please be sure to check back every week for new videos and assignments, and check in with me and your other teachers if you are struggling with work. So today we're going to be reviewing a skill that we worked on earlier in the year, making inferences about literature. I've got a quick presentation to give you, and then we'll head over to Teams to work through the assignment together. So we talked earlier in the year about making inferences. So that's making judgments or assumptions about a text based on things that the author hasn't directly told you, using your own prior knowledge. So we're working on Standard 6.1 today, being able to cite textual evidence to explain what a text actually says, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So I want you to remember the inference equation that we worked on earlier in the year. What I read plus what I know equals what I infer. What you read means using quotes from the text, and if you're reading a longer text, noting the page number for future reference. The what you know box means using your background knowledge and prior experiences from your own life to be able to get to the last step, which is what you infer, putting two and two together to make a conclusion about the story. When reading a story, we make inferences when we discover something about a character or situation that the author didn't directly tell us. And I'm going to throw it back to earlier when we were looking at myths. I have an excerpt here from the Athena and Arachne myth that we read together. So remember this part? Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was an exceptional weaver. She shared her knowledge with humans as long as they consistently showed her their deepest gratitude. Athena's most talented student was a young woman named Arachne. So remember how in this first part of the story, we were introduced to both of the characters and we were given some information about Athena, the goddess of wisdom. When we read, we're automatically making inferences. We just might not know it. So what we can infer from this first part of the story starts with what the text tells us. Athena shares her knowledge with humans who show her gratitude. What we already know from our own prior experience is that gratitude makes people feel appreciated. It makes you feel good. So our inference, just at the beginning of the story, could be if someone does not show Athena gratitude, she will be upset, which, as you know, because we've already read the story, is exactly what happens and leads to Arachne's demise. So now that we've recalled that information from earlier in the year, let's head over to Teams and take a look at the assignment. So here we have the assignment for this week, which looks very similar to the assignment that I gave you the last time. The only difference is that we're going to be looking at another Greek myth rather than the poetry that we looked at last time. In ancient Greece, people told myths to explain the ways of the world. Myths often portrayed brave heroes and vicious monsters. The ancient Greeks also believed in powerful gods who watched over Earth and intervened when they saw fit. In this particular myth, a prince from Greece's capital city of Athens travels by sea to another city, Crete, in order to fight a monster. As you read, pay attention to how Theseus's actions and characteristics help drive the plot. After you finish reading, answer the questions that follow. For the multiple choice, write one sentence explaining your answer. Theseus and the Minotaur. King Minos of Crete was a powerful man, feared by the rulers of lands around him. When he demanded goods or men for his great armies, they felt they had to agree. When he demanded they send tributes to honor him, they sent them without question. It was the only way they could stop him going to war with them. But his demands on Athens became too much for them to bear. King Minos had a great palace built for himself. Inside this palace, Minos had built a giant maze, a labyrinth, and at the center of the maze, he kept a terrifying creature, the Minotaur. Now, this was no ordinary animal. It was a monster, half man and half bull. It was powerful and savage, and it loved to eat the flesh of humans who had been shut into the labyrinth by King Minos. They would wander through the maze, completely lost, until at last they came face to face with the Minotaur. Not a great way to die, really. As for Athens, Minos demanded that every year King Aegeus of Athens send him 7 young men and 7 young women. Why do we send these young people to Crete every year? Theseus, the king's son, asked his father. And why is it that none of them ever return? Because if we did not send them, Minos would wage war on us, and it is a war that we would not win, said King Aegeus. And they do not return because they do not go to Crete as slaves. They go as food for the Minotaur. Father, this is terrible, shouted Theseus. We cannot let this go on. We cannot sacrifice any more of our young citizens to this tyrant. When it is time to send the next tribute, I will go as one of them, and I vow that it is the last time the Minotaur will be fed with the flesh of any of our people. Try as he might, his father could not persuade him to change his mind. Aegeus reminded him that every year, other young men had sworn to slay this terrible beast, and they had never been seen again. Theseus insisted that he understood the dangers but would succeed. I will return to you, father, cried Theseus, as the ship left the harbor wall, and you will be proud of your son. Then I wish you good luck, my son, cried his father. I shall keep watch for you every day. If you are successful, take down these black sails and replace them with white ones. That way I will know you are coming home safe to me. As the ship docked in Crete, King Minos himself came down to inspect the prisoners from Athens. He enjoyed the chance to taunt the Athenians and to humiliate them even further. Is this all your king has to offer this year? He jeered. Such puny creatures, hardly even a snack for the mighty creature within the labyrinth. Anyway, let's get on with it. I am not a hard-hearted man, so I will let you choose which one goes first into the Minotaur's den. Who will it be? Theseus stepped forward. I will go first. I am Theseus, Prince of Athens, and I do not fear what is within the walls of your maze. Those are brave words for one so young and feeble, but the Minotaur will soon have you between its horns. Guards, open the labyrinth and send him in. Standing behind the king, listening, was his daughter, Ariadne. From the moment she set eyes on Theseus, Ariadne fell in love with him. As she listened to her father goading and taunting the young prince, she decided that she would help him. As he entered the labyrinth and the guards walked away, she called softly to him. Theseus, take this, she whispered. Even if you kill the Minotaur, you will never find your way out again. She threw him a great ball of string, and he tied one end of it to the entrance. He smiled at her, turned, and began to make his way into the maze, the string playing out behind him as he went. Theseus walked carefully through the dark, foul-smelling passages of the labyrinth, expecting at any moment to come face to face with the creature. He did not have long to wait. Turning a corner, with his hands held out in front of him feeling his way, he touched suddenly what felt like a huge, bony horn. In an instant, his world turned upside down, quite literally. He was picked up between the Minotaur's horns and tossed high into the air. When he landed on the hard, cold stone, he felt the animal's huge hooves come down on his chest. Every last breath seemed to be knocked out of him, and he struggled to stay alive in the darkness. But Theseus was no ordinary man. He was the son of a king. He was brave, and he was stubborn. As the Minotaur bellowed in his ear and grabbed at him with his hairy arms, Theseus found a strength which he did not know he possessed. He grabbed the animal's huge horns and kept on twisting the great head from side to side. As the animal grew weak, Theseus gave one almighty tug on the head, turning it almost right around. The creature's neck snapped. It gurgled its last breath and fell to the floor with an enormous thud. It was over. He had done it. The Minotaur was dead. All he had to do was make his way out of... And then he realized the awful truth. In the struggle, he had let go of the string, his lifeline. Theseus felt all over the floor in the pitch darkness and kept thinking he had found it, only to realize that all he had was a long, wiry hair from the Minotaur. Despair set in, and Theseus wondered if this was where his life would end, down in the dark, all alone next to the stinking body. Then his hand brushed a piece of string, and with a whoop of delight, he knew he had found the thread which would lead him back out. As he neared the entrance of the labyrinth, the darkness began to fade, and he made out the figure of Ariadne waiting for his return. "You must take me back to Athens with you," she cried. "My father will kill me when he finds out that I have helped you." "But of course you must come with us," said Theseus. "It would be cruel to leave you here." Quickly and quietly, they unfurled the great black sails of their ship and headed for home. "I cannot believe how my life has changed," said Ariadne, as they sailed across the calm seas toward Athens. "To think that I am free of my cruel father, and that I will be soon married to a great prince." "Married?" said Theseus. "Oh, yes, that'll be wonderful." But in truth, Theseus did not really find her attractive. So when their ship docked at an island on the way home to collect fresh water, Theseus sent Ariadne off to find bread and fruit. The moment she was gone, he had set sail and left her on the island. Now, you might think that this was a bad way to reward someone who had helped him and saved him from certain death. The gods clearly thought the same thing, for they had a further horror in store for him, as punishment for his ungrateful treatment of the young girl. In his haste to get away, Theseus forgot to change his sails to white. King Aegeus, waiting on the headland, saw the ship approaching with its black sails flying in the wind. "My son has failed, and he is dead," he cried, and in his despair, he flung himself off the cliff into the raging waters below. From that day on, the sea was named in memory of Theseus's father. So that's it for this week's lesson. I hope you enjoyed reading the myth. Some of you might have been familiar with it. Some of you, it might be new to you. So please give me a call or a message on Teams if you're having trouble with the questions. And I hope that you guys are doing well and staying safe. I miss everybody. Please take care. And again, reach out if you need anything. Talk to you later.